welcome back to episode number 11. I can't believe we're up to 11 already, and we're on to our final Enneagram type, which is Enneagram Type 9. How exciting. We'll get to move into other things after this, but let's do the 9.
Okay.
What words have we got today?
Well, 9, the Peacemaker, another instinctual type, the last of the 3 instinctuals. Words that can often be used in relationship with a 9: receptive, agreeable, reassuring, trusting, optimistic, supportive, humble, shy, and idealistic.
They sound delightful.
Yep.
I'm assuming there's a whole other side to them as well, much like everybody else.
Everybody has the other side. So other words, and some of them can be a little
Confronting, maybe?
maybe. Slothful, self-neglecting, over-accommodating, complacent, stubborn, frustrated, angry, or obstinate.
Oh dear. Yes. We'll go with plan A on that one.
Yeah, we'll unpack a little bit of that as we go along.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming that a lot of those words will come out in there when they're stressed. So can you tell us a bit more about what happens when they do get stressed?
Yeah, well, in stress, 9s can become anxious and worried, like the unhealthy version of the type 6, because they go to 6 in their stress point.
Right. Yes, we've got the 3, 6, 9, don't we?
Yeah, the triad. Yeah.
All right. Well, obviously then when they're more secure.
Yeah, when feeling secure, 9s can become more motivated and energized, like healthy 3s, more active.
Right. Okay. So less slothful.
Less slothful, yes.
All right. Well, the fear seems to drive a lot of behaviors. So what's the fear of the 9?
Loss and separation, or to be in any form of conflict. So they are conflict averse. They don't like conflict.
I suppose most people, well, okay, that's coming from a phobic 6, saying most people don't like conflict. I think some people actually do, but 9s are particularly averse to it.
Yeah, particularly averse to it. Their desire is to have peace of mind, inner calm, a sense of peace, to be in a much nicer place.
Which kind of makes the term or the name, the Peacemaker, fairly apt. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so they're known as the Peacemaker. So why the Peacemaker? Because they of all types seem to be the most focused and committed to finding peace, both within themselves and the world around them. Being conflict averse, they will calm the environment in times of conflict, either by calming or reassuring someone, or just with their presence. Like all instinctuals, the energetic instinctual presence can be felt. We've said this about the 1s and the 8s as well. It's a very much of a real body energy, an instinctual energy. So that can be felt by those around them. And it's this calming influence that they use when they meet with any form of conflict. They don't like conflict, but most definitely can have an effect on it for the positive. They are peacemakers for themselves too. So they are looking for their own peace, and they do that through creating peace in their environment. And they can even become dismissive or simplifying of problems in order to move away from the conflict it causes to themselves and others, and towards that peaceful place or calm place. They're like the human shock absorbers of stress, and we'll cover this absorbing of conflict more as we go through some of the other sections.
Yeah, there seems to be quite the focus on the energy as well, because it's a tricky one to define, I suppose, because you're looking at a sense, which is like we explained last time, that everybody's got access to instinctual, and it is something that can be tangibly felt. But you can't kind of point at it and say it's there or there.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that interesting point that everybody has access to instinctual. Nines, if you look at the Enneagram diagram, 9 is right at the top. And there was a lot of talk within the Enneagram world in various circles that the 9 was considered the crown of the Enneagram. And it's almost as if they can embody so many aspects of all the other types. And it's not the same. Again, the drive is different, but they almost have an ability to connect with all of the various different other types, probably through that common instinctual energy.
Mm.
And it's probably in order to be able to have an understanding of how to calm that other type.
Yeah, it does appear to be a very important role they have.
It's almost bordering on some kind of spiritual awareness.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You mentioned complacent earlier on.
Yeah, they can become complacent. Their tendency to oversimplify or dismiss or move away from distress or conflict comes from complacency, a kind of numbing out from disturbing things or conflicting things. They just don't want to think about it. And dare I say it, almost in a 7-ish kind of way, can we stay in a better place?
It doesn't know. I don't know about, like, when you comparing a 9 with a 7 and all of those kind of
We'll
very
get to that.
calm things.
We'll
I'm
get to that.
very curious.
Yeah,
So
we'll
yeah.
get to that. So they do this complacency almost to the point of ignoring those disturbances. You see, they are in fact another of the idealists. They would rather brush over the troubles or use their calming, reassuring energy to effect change, a positive change, towards the ideal place. So, in relation to that almost similarity to 7 traits,
Mm.
9s can at times look a little like 7s when they employ their optimism and idealistic approach to life. And like 7s, they also see the silver lining in any situation. But as always, what can look the same comes from a different set of internal drives. 7s are avoiding pain or negative influence that may lead to less positive options or some form of discomfort. And 9s are avoiding conflict in an almost Zen-like pursuit of calm and inner peace. But you see, the 7's energy is up and the 9's energy is even. And it looks very different on an energetic level.
Oh, I'd say it looks looks different on many levels, to be honest. If you're using a word like Zen, I'm pretty sure that doesn't apply to a 7.
Absolutely.
So, when it's applied to a 9, yeah.
That Zen, I knew that mentioning the Zen-like might create a couple of queries, but anyway, I often think of 9s, and I've never really said this before, but it's looking at describing the 9s, making notes on it. I stumbled across something in my mind that I often think. I see them as little Buddhas.
Little Buddhas.
Yeah, both the male and female version of the type. It doesn't make any difference. Their quest for peace and harmony. They're often smiling, cheerful faces. Invariably, 9s will have a smile on their face. Always seem to be cheerful. And we'll get into why that might be as we go on. Their reassuring, supportive nature. They can actually be spiritually motivated as a rule. As I said, they've got this almost spiritual connection. With an almost transcendent approach to disturbances, almost willing you to rise above it to a place of calm. This Buddha-like appearance can sometimes be in a physical appearance too, and this might be getting controversial. Again, not in every case, but just like other types, physical commonalities can show up. Nines are not usually tall or lean build. Usually they are shorter in height or stature than some of the other types and have more rounded features. Again, it's a softer feel in the sense of it's almost trying to melt in or appear invisible almost. Again, not in all cases, but it can be common. You can see these things. They're usually smiling in order to lead you in a more positive direction, and often they're very agreeable people.
I have a friend who's a 9, and that fits so bang on.
Yeah.
And she is definitely she fits all of those things and can tend to enjoy comfort and not doing things also.
Yeah, well,
sloth-like.
That'll come up a little bit more. So let's look at that. Sloth. This is always a tricky subject to breach. It's been said, and it is true, that nines can be slothful or self-neglecting. They're very fond of their comfort and can overindulge in slothful behavior, and they usually love their sleep or their comfy chair or couch, being contented in their peaceful world. Herein lies another of those contradictions in the world of the Enneagram. While they are most definitely the peacemakers for themselves and for those around them, they harbour frustration and anger on the inside. And you can imagine if they're coming up against confrontation and they don't like it, it can be frustrating and it can cause anger to rise. And it often takes its toll on them and wears them out, hence the need to rest and regenerate. And they generally acquire a lot of it. And as I said, that frustration, that anger, it is in there. So anger for a 9, all instinctuals know anger. The ones get angry with injustice and struggle internally with the anger it causes. 8s get angry with anything that challenges their need for control of themselves or their environment. And 9s get angry with things or people that disturb the peace or calm they strive for.
It's an interesting way to handle it because anger tends to be big, but are you saying that they contain that anger and that it's absorbed?
You won't see it. It will be internalized and it will be the little storm inside.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Yeah.
So what would be the purpose for a 9? We've talked about this with the other types and their general role in community and society.
Yeah.
So being the crown of the Enneagram, where does the 9 fit into this?
Well, what the 9s offer to the world or to those in their lives, well, firstly, I think it's self-evident from what's already been said that they are society's peacemakers. They like to calm the waters. They like to unruffle the feathers, as it were. They can also serve as great examples of some of the better values that can be held by us all. They can be very receptive, stable, calm influences. And obviously when there's hostility and conflict around, that's a very useful thing to be.
Yeah. Do you know who it reminds me of?
Yeah.
Pooh Bear out of Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, I reckon when we're talking about what examples are, it's probably difficult to find a 9 in the public eye, as it were, because, you know, they don't generally want to stand out. They don't generally want to be the center of attention. They don't usually want to have the eye on them. They generally want everything just to be peaceful and calm, almost unassuming. So yeah, they're hard to do. But Pooh, yeah, in that little family of creatures, he's generally just happy, wants his comfort. Or can I just have some honey? You know, just
empty again. Only the sticky parts left.
Can we just not talk about that if it's scary? Can we not get into that if it's dangerous? You know, he's not a Tigger, and he's you know, not like Piglet or Rabbit. He's very much a calm, almost Zen-like.
Almost Zen-like Buddha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like a little bear Buddha. Yeah.
Yes, he is.
as I said, they serve as great examples of some of those nicer traits. They're a calm, stable influence. They're trusting and good-natured. They fully embody equanimity and composure. And if you are looking at all of the types, nines are by far the voices of equanimity. They bring a calm and optimistic voice and energy to aid those who need it. They are fun-loving, cheerful people with a great sense of humour. They are kind of cheerful. They can be very social at times, drawing out the best in others, but it's usually in groups that they are familiar with. It's usually in their inner circle. Again, they don't generally like to be centre stage, but with their inner circle, with people they know, they can be very fun, funny, jovial people. They're easy to be around and great synthesizers and mediators in social settings. That they bring people together. They're very capable people that get things done. It's probably fair to say that the instinctuals, and of course other types that have access to the instinctual when they go into the subtypes, can become doers. So the nines are very much a doer. They do things.
You also said there that they're very agreeable.
Yes,
Does that make them kind of yes people?
Yeah, their need to keep things on an even keel means that they can at times say yes to things, even if it's not what they really want. They tend to go with the flow rather than cause disruption or go against the flow. Thus, they can become over accommodating, and it can cause them the frustration I said before, the frustration that sits in there. Although they won't show it on the outside as a rule. So that's a thing where you see why the frustration would be there, because they don't want to rock the boat.
And
they'll go along with things, and they'll just almost forego what they want, and it can be frustrating. But to do anything else would make them not a nine.
And I suppose doing it one off or two off, a couple of times in a row, that's fine because that does keep everything better for them. However, repeatedly would probably get quite taxing.
Yes, it would. So they've got an endurance level, again, like the instinctuals have quite the endurance.
Okay. So what would it be like to live with one?
Right, so living with a nine. It really depends on the personality type of the person in a relationship with the nine, of course. So that is what will probably determine what you'll see in them. Remember, they're more of a responder than an initiator in exchanges. So again, what you show them will generally reflect what you see back. But generally, they are very tolerant. They value connection. They're supportive and forgiving. They're emotionally stable and inclusive. But in the unhealthy version of a nine, can be very stubborn, inattentful, neglectful, or dismissive. And as I said, complacent. And even show you the frustration and the anger that lives within. It sometimes escapes with that person on their inner circle, the person that sees them 24/7. There's no doubt that at times their frustration level would be such that that's the person that would see it.
Well, given that an awful lot of that is internal, by the time it goes external, I'd say there's an awful lot in there. So I would assume growth, or at least a growth path, would be really useful for them to know.
Well, growth's useful for all of us, and knowing our type, knowing all of the things that go on for us is essential. And so, like with all the types, growth is achieved by understanding both the healthy and the unhealthy aspects of your type. For nines, having a realistic outlook can help them avoid some of the frustrations they endure to keep the status quo. As I said, they're idealistic and sometimes lose a little sight of the realistic. So, as I said, like sevens, They get caught up in that idealistic fantasy that prevents them from maturing, because growth creates maturity. And if they're not doing that, they're not maturing.
Mm.
Keeping the peace has a cost, and that's a fair assessment, and it does show up. Learning to deal with the frustration and anger and painful emotions rather than repress them. Like with all types, anything unhandled will cause a persistence of the problem. Once handled, the problem no longer prevents you from engaging or being present. So for a 9, this requires them to deal with issues rather than smooth them over, talking about things rather than keeping them locked up inside, and be honest with themselves and others rather than just keeping the peace. And for their health, as I said, the absorbing all of that stress that's around them is not good for them in health.
Mm. Yeah. So they're fairly that even temper would be pretty hard to manage.
Yeah,
But-
well, it's there, and it's something that you see constantly, and it doesn't look like it's hard to manage for them. It's sort of who they are.
A little bit like my natural affinity, I'm not sure that's the right word, with anxiety. It would be the same kind of thing as their even tone, temperament.
And it's very much that almost trying to stay in this transcendent state of calm.
Mm.
Yeah, so that even temperament 9s can be identified by their energy. Even if the energy around them is heightened, they will not rise to the match. They'll not go up to meet it like some other types would. They will speak in a calm, even tone in order to bring that heightened energy down. And likewise, if the energy around them is dark, down, or depressed, they will maintain that even tone in order to bring the energy up to that more even middle ground. When they speak in conversation, you will hear the same thing. They don't usually get heightened or lower the tone of their voice much at all. Their voice usually stays within a short range, in line with their viewpoint, which is, let's keep it even and let's keep it calm.
Mm. So I'm just wondering, in terms of where to find them in the world, what kind of jobs would best suit that personality?
Well, you can find 9s like any other type in a whole host of different roles, as needs must. We have to pay the bills, but they won't be the ones making waves. They are the oil that keeps things moving smoothly. So they want to calm the waters. They want to make sure everything runs smoothly, because with that, you're not getting conflict. And this is the thing they're trying to avoid or stop from happening. Many 9s often find themselves doing back office work, accounts, clerical, and other such jobs. Why? Well, you see, numbers and ledgers, accounts books, they don't argue with you.
Unless the numbers don't add up.
Yeah, so they're quite happy in that back office where it's away from all confrontations and people, just so that they can just do their little job and be happy with that. So they're very satisfied in doing that sort of lone work or solely by themselves work.
Mm.
Yeah, and so non-confronting roles suit them. Even mediation roles can suit them, because they have that natural gift of being mediators and synthesizers and being able to bring people to the same place, an even space. So they are naturally attuned to that. You'll find them as cooks, gardeners, farmers, nursing. Again, roles that will generally stop them from encountering confrontation. You're not fighting with the tractor or the crops. You might have a problem with it, but it's not going to argue with you. You're not going to have an argument with a frying pan. Yeah. So 9s will find themselves in jobs that are interact with lots of people. My niece, I absolutely believe she was a 9, and she worked in a bank, and of course she spent most of her time dealing with numbers and figures and things like that. But everybody loved her, so they're generally very pleasing.
Well, they sound like really, really nice people to be around, especially if you've got something going on that's causing an energy up or down kind of experience for somebody.
Yep.
So yeah, I have to say that my friend who's a 9, she was always very moderating. She
Yeah, that's a good word.
had an effect on me by moderating what if I was feeling, down or up or whatever. She would generally get me back to that level.
Yeah, moderating is a very good word for 9. They do moderate what's going on around them. And they are very nice people. You will meet them and you will see them. They will nearly always have a smile on their face. They're generally pleasant people. They're kind-hearted. They will, of course, always want to move you towards a happier, calmer place where everything is rosy. It's the rose-colored glasses type of scenario. It's, in their ideal world, it would be like even Don Riso said, it's like the 9s are the people that would want everything to end up happy ever after.
Yeah. Oh,
and it's very, very true. So generally speaking, they are that friendly, happy, positive, whatever. As I said, unless something goes wrong, unless it is something fairly traumatic to them or a bad situation and they're in an unhealthy place, deeply into their stress point, and then you can see something else. But on the whole, if they are in an even place, they are lovely people to be around.
Well, isn't that a lovely type to end on?
It really is. And fitting, really.
Absolutely. So this is the end of our, well, I suppose it is somewhat of an introduction, although it's been fairly thoroughly covered about each individual type. From next week, we're going to change it up a little bit and do something else that we haven't fully figured out yet, but it's going to be along the lines of sharing a bit more of our story, how we found ourselves on YouTube.
Yep.
And also just trying to explain our framework, because our framework isn't limited to the Enneagram. We do have a few other tricks up our sleeve that we'd like to talk about.
Yep.
Yeah. So until then, as I figure out how I'm going to pour all of this into a video, we'll leave it there and we'll see you again next week. Well, as we said, this is the last of our Enneagram typing descriptions that we're going to be doing, and we will be moving into a whole other area when we come back again next week. Part of the story is going to include our YouTube journey, I suppose, because it's been, let's just say, interesting. And we'll go into a couple of the things that have happened along the way. If you would like to have a look into our framework a little bit more, as I have said at the end of all the other videos, feel free to check out our books, The Healing Compass, on Amazon. And also, if you would like to contact us via email for typing, accurate typing, please feel free to do so. We are going to be including some other ideas and services and things that we offer from, and we'll describe what they are going to be in the video next week. So I'm getting crowded by dogs here. So until next time, we will see you again.